Her hand raised. Miss Bailey?
Yeah, some people have just joined.
Well, I'm sorry. They'll just have to wait till after class. I'm getting tired of, I said 3:30. Anyway. Had a couple of questions sent. I did start the recording. Had a couple of questions sent, and I'm reading over to see. Are y'all talking about? Oh, you're talking about chemistry people. Okay, so here's the questions. First question I got, and I think, I may be wrong, but I think I went over a couple of these questions, but I'll go over them again. First question is 2.2, number 9, or 23/9. Oh, really? Just signed in. My God. Sorry. Okay, this, I think we went over one like this, and it might not have been over the homework. It might have been just in note taking, because I remember going over this question, because I remember factoring, but I can't remember where I did it, so that's why I'm going over it. Yeah, so let me turn on my handy dandy visualizer and my, I should have had all this pulled up, but like I said, I was in a meeting right up until 3:25, so I apologize.
No, we're going to be unreasonable and hold you accountable for those.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being unreasonable. Okay, so the question was, there we go. All right, I don't care what the directions say, because we're just gonna go through the basics first, okay? Okay, x squared, f of x is equal to x squared minus 49 over x plus 7. And they're saying a is equal to -7. I know I went over this, because do y'all remember when I went over it and I said nothing is that easy? Remember me telling you that? In calculus, when you say limit is x approaches 7 or whatever the case may be, okay, nothing is that simple. It's not going to say -7. Okay, that's undefined, so the function's undefined. And I said, nope, not that easy. Somebody tell me you remember me saying that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I did show you one like this, because you're going to have to factor. You're either going to have to rationalize, or you're going to have to factor, or you're going to have to, and some of y'all, I'm not going to say who,
quit,
because I will be fussed at. Some of y'all know how to do that very well. Okay? Manipulate. You're manipulating a function. And when you manipulate, you're usually either going to factor it, or you're going to rationalize the numerator or the denominator. Okay? Rationalize the numerator or denominator. So I'm going to factor. So reverse FOIL, or shortcut number 3, x plus 7, x minus 7 over x plus 7. And this is a test question. So limit as x approaches whatever number of x minus 7. Now remember, I told you that when you have this, you can't just throw that away. This is an open what? It's an open circle on the function. on the graph of the function. So if you drew this graph, and I'm just gonna, it does something like that. At 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you're gonna have an open circle right there. Okay? Now, they're asking you, and f of -7 does not exist, because when you plug in -7, you get 0. That means open circle. Now they're gonna ask you something else down here. What happens when you approach -7? That should be the same thing.
From the right hand side.
Okay, that's the right side. You're gonna have to, okay, they got it graphed right here. So it's this one right here. What happens to -7 as you approach from the right? Well, you're gonna approach whatever negative number this is. So blow it up. Somebody, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Is that what you got? Let me check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Might be 10. Or you could just plug it in. What'd y'all get? I'll just punch it in and see. -10 or -11.
Should be 14.
What?
Should be -14.
That's what I was thinking, because if you look at it, like when you factor it and then you plug in the -7,
Plug
you make
in
-14.
7. What do you get?
-7 minus 7, so 14. -14.
-14. Thank you. Plug and chug, whichever one. Oh, shoot. Whatever. Plug in -4. That's the best way to do it. -14. So here, when you go back to your handy dandy, I'm trying to do three things at one time. Right here at -7, limit is -7. You just plug -7 in there, and that gives you -14. That's the easiest way to do it. So that is a test question, and I believe I showed y'all. I could be crazy, but I believe I showed y'all one like this, and it might have had an x plus 5 right here or x minus 5. I can't remember. What was your question? What last step?
I got it. I'm helping her.
Well, share with me, because what last step?
She was wondering how you got the 14. So when you factor it out, you get the x plus, or x minus 7 is the only thing left.
Yeah.
You plug in the -7 into that x, and that you get -14.
Yeah, there it is right there. Last step is right here.
So that when you factor out the x plus 7 and the on top cancels with the x plus 7 on the bottom, leaving you with just x minus 7, plug in your a for that x, and you get -14.
Okay, so that should be the last step. Okay, that's a good test question because it's sweet, it's short and sweet. Next question that was sent to me is 2.235/12. Now, I remember going over this one because I said it was a yucky problem because it's a step piecewise function, and we spent a few minutes going over it. It might have not been, I think it was 43 cents. And the graphs are not very good as far as you trying to line them up with the Y. Remember? Because I had to type in like 3 answers to get it right. So, remember I told you plus for each additional ounce. So that would be A, because your postage is going to be either open, closed, or closed, open. Well, you don't start with a postage and then go to vague postage, so it's going to be A. It's going to be solid, open, solid, open, solid, open. I told y'all that in the problem, okay? You're not going to have open, solid, open, solid. You're going to have solid, open, solid, open, solid, open. Now, here's the problem. Now, you're approaching 3.3, so I wish I could draw on this thing. But here's 3 right here. And here's 3.3. I'd say 3.3 is right about there. So when you go up to 3.3, you're hitting that line right there. Now that line represents all of 3 to 4. So we got to figure out which that is. And I told you that this was $1.20, $1.40. I mean, this is 20, 40, 60, 80, $1. That's $1 right there. Yeah. And I told you this was 120. And I told y'all that looks like 118, $1.18. But remember, I had to type it in 3 times to get it right. So I'm going to say I still think it looks like $1.18, but I'm going to blow it up a little bit more.
It's 89 cents.
89? It can't be 89 cents.
24 times 2 plus 41.
We haven't got that far yet. 1, 20, 40, 60, 80, $1. And right there, I would say that's probably $1.18. Okay, right here, $1.18. So that's going to be 118. And it doesn't work. Now, if you was to plug 33 in, then you could do that. But so what'd you say, Mr. O'Quinn?
Should be 89 cents.
It can't be 89 cents. It's asking for the limit right here. That's not 89 cents.
It's 41 cents for the first ounce, and then 24 cents for each ounce after that. That's 2 sets of 24 and 1 of 41. 89.
But that's still 89 cents should not be right there. 20, 40, 60. There's 89 cents right there. That's not at 3.3. I'd say it's $1.15 maybe. Let's see $1.15. Well, I understand what you're doing, Mr. O'Quinn. You're plugging it in, and that's fine, but $1.13. See? And there is no way, and I think Miss Sterling sent this question, there is no way in Hades that you can get that from this graph, okay? Because that does not look like $1.13. Looks more like $1.18. Now, if you was to go 41, let's see, that'd be 41. You'd have to at least plug in the third set. And let's see, 41 plus what?
Shouldn't it be the next graph over?
No, this is the graph right here.
Oh, that's
okay. Now, remember when I showed y'all this problem in the homework, I told you that I didn't like it because the graph was not accurate. Does that look like $1.13 to y'all? If this is $1.20, I mean $1, and that's $1.20, does that look like $1.13 to you?
No.
It looks like $1.18. So I don't like the way this question's worded. I mean, not the worded. I don't like the graph, and I think that's why I think that's why whoever sent this question, I think that's why they were having a problem with it. And I told you on the homework that problem is not now. If you took, even if you took 41 plus, that'd be 3 times, that'd be 72. You would get, somebody take 72 plus 41 and see if you get $1.13. $72 plus 41.
Yes.
That's what they're doing. They're plugging it in. 41 plus 3 times 24. Write that down. 41 plus 3 times 24. So, Miss Sterling, what I would do if I was you I would forget the graph. Pick the graph. I mean, it's going to be open, closed, open, closed, open, closed for postage. And then I would do 41 cents for the first ounce, and then 3 times 21 cents for each additional ounce, not 3 dots. Oh. And if you do that, you should get the right, I think that equals $1.13. Do not use the graph. Okay. I tell my mother every day, 12 to 5, I have class. She calls every day at 4 o'clock. Okay, next, last homework question. This one is Mr. O'Quinn's favorite question. Mr. O'Quinn, there's your favorite question. Now, if you go to your homework page, okay, now y'all watch this now because this is where you find all the videos that none of y'all won't go look at. Right here, you fill the playlist. You see this when it says homework questions? I did a couple of these problems on the homework questions right here. Okay? God, he's got a YouTube page. Duh! Yeah. Anyway, first thing you do, and they should do, remember, I told you that they didn't write this problem right. They should put a y or an f of x in front of this. It would help out things tremendously. A to the 2 over log base 8 of A. And this is not a test question. If I do put this on there, y'all have a reason to flog me, okay? So the first thing you do is change this denominator right here. I'm going to highlight this denominator. Highlight this denominator and change that base using the change base formula. So y is equal to A 2 over 1 over the log of A over the log of 8. Now I'm going to...
We can't see your paper.
divide. I'm sorry, what?
Oh,
I
can't see what you're doing.
I have to keep flipping. Sorry. It's a conspiracy.
Damn Russians.
Yep. Y is equal to A to the 2 over 1 times log of 8 over log of A. And that's going to condense down. Y is equal to A to the log of 8 raised to the 2nd power over the log of A. And now I'm going to take the log, this is the second part. This is actually the part that answers your question. This part right here that says using base 3, put a part 2 over that. This part right here, put part 2, because this is part 1. Okay, part 2 is when you actually use the base. So I'm going to take the log of both sides, log base 3. And that's going to be, I've got to go down here. So that's log base 3 of 8 squared over log base 3 of A. And you got 2 cancelations that's going to happen. This cancellation is going to happen. Log base 3 of A over log base 3 of A Those cancel. And then that's going to give you log base 3 of y is equal to log base 3 of 8 squared. And what happens if the logs are the same bases?
You have a work email.
They go out, and y is equal to 81.
It's 64.
I was going to say the square root of
Okay.
8.
9 squared is 81. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So those 3 homework questions, you got a couple. Well, you got one. That's a test question. That first one I did is a test question. Okay, now we're going to go into chapter 3. Okay, now the good news about chapter 3 is, to me, it's a little bit easier than chapter 2, because 2 is something that is like a hindrance to you. Okay, limits is a hindrance to people, and that's why I tried to make it short and sweet. I tried not to make it long and drawn out, because the longer you draw out limits, the worse it gets. So we're done with limits. Now we're going to jump into derivatives. Chapter 3 is nothing but derivatives. The first couple of sections, 3.1. 3.1 still is sticking with the limits and finding the derivative by the limit. 3.2 is using the difference quotient. And 3.3, somebody look on your outline. How far do we go? 3.3 to what? Should be 3.7, I think. Somebody got your outline? Where's the one person that printed out your handouts? 3.6 or 3.7?
3.6.
3.6. Laws of derivatives. So that's what it looks like. And I can tell you right now, 80% of your test is going to come from 3.3 through 3.6. Now, you're talking about hammering. I'm going to be hammering 3.3 through 3.6. Because if you don't understand derivatives and antiderivatives, you might as well forget your next calculus class. And I'm going to hammer both of them.
Chapter 3 covers antiderivatives as well.
It does?
I'm asking.
No.
Okay.
In fact, they break up after chapter 2, after chapter 3, they go into chapter 4. I usually skip it. I go to antiderivatives and I show you the antiderivatives, so that way you got them side by side. And then I do chapter 4 if we get time.
That sounds good, because we're doing antiderivatives in physics. So
yeah. Okay. So law of derivatives, 80%. Now, I noticed something on your limits test. Limit test. And algebra review test. Algebra review test, the average, the class average is like 82. The limit test is like 96. Y'all know why this is 82? Because there's some of y'all that still what? Some of y'all still suck at algebra. Guess what? You're going to suck in chapter 3. The limit, it only shows you how we get to the calculus. I'm not even worried about this in chapter 3. Okay? If you still suck at algebra, if you make it a 60 or a 70 on that algebra review test, then you might want to go take it a few more times, because You don't have any room to suck at algebra in chapter 3. Okay? All right, so let's start. Now there's two ways to take a derivative, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the limits part in 3.1, but I'm going to show you what you're going to see in 3.1. Given a function s of t is equal to negative 16t squared plus 128t plus 192, and you want to find the instantaneous velocity at t is equal to 2. And of course, that's probably 2 seconds, and your distance is feet, because most of your physics problems are going to be like feet per second. And I'm going to write down something here, and you saw it on the previous test. That's the S. Remember I told you it looks like the slope? So we're going to do limit as t approaches 2 of s of t minus s of 2 over t minus 2. Now I want you to highlight that, now, not the 2 part, but just the formula, because you're going to see this on the test as far as a problem or a homework problem with 3.1. Now remember, that 2 is going to be based on whatever you're given, okay? But as you can see, everything revolves around the slope in this chapter. Everything revolves around the slope, because the slope is what you're getting when you take the derivative of something. Okay, so that's why everything around this chapter is focused around the slope. So what do you do next? Well, you just do what you're supposed to. All right, S of t is this whole thing right here. So limit as t approaches 2 of, and I'm going to put brackets right here because I'm going to write down s of t. So that's negative 16t squared plus 128t plus 192. And then minus s of 2. So that means I'm going to plug 2 into this. That's 2 squared is 4. 4 times, that's negative 64. Negative 64 plus
256.
256. Plus 192, I got 384. Negative 384. Y'all check me. Over t minus 2. Now, of course, there's an easier way to do this, a whole lot easier way to do it, but we're going there right now. We're going there in 3.2. So limit as t approaches 2. Negative 16t squared plus 128t plus 192 minus 384. Dang old negative 192 over t minus 2. Now, I want y'all to finish this problem. Take a minute. It is 4:08 right now. 4:08. I want you to take a minute and finish this problem. Why am I letting you finish? Well, that's nothing but 100% what?
Algebra.
Algebra. It's 100% algebra. So everybody in here should be able to finish this problem. Okay, it just turned over to 4:09. So I'm going to give you one more minute, so that way, because it just turned over. I'm going to give you 14 minutes. Finish it. If you can't finish it, you know what that means. That means that you're pretty much a failure. and you should pretty much maybe give it up. You know.
Plus.
Okay. So what can you do? I could factor out a 16 here. That'd be limit as t approaches 2, negative 16. And that's going to give me, what is that? T squared minus what? 16 will go in there. What? 4, 4, 5. How many times will 16 go into 128?
8.
Somebody tell me.
8.
8 times. And plus what? 12
Yep.
divided by t minus 2. Well, that looks like reverse FOIL because square root of 12, that's not a perfect square, so it's not a shortcut. So limit as t approaches 2 of negative 16, and that's going to be a t here and a t here and a 6 here and a 2 here, and we need it to be negative 6 and negative 2 over t minus 2. T minus 2's cancel, and then plug in the 2. Negative 16 times negative 2, oops, sorry, it's positive 2, minus 6, negative 16 times what? Negative 4? 64. So your velocity, your instantaneous velocity at 2 seconds is equal to 64 feet per second. Okay, now make a note. That's a test question. And remember, this S of t is going to be first. That's going to be your whole function. Just like before when we did the difference quotient. And then this S of 2, you're going to take that 2 or whatever number you're given, and you're going to plug it into that right there. And yes, you're going to see an easier way to do it. The difference quotient is easier, but we're not there yet.
Logan's got his hand raised.
Say again?
Logan has his hand raised.
Who's got a question? Just go ahead and I can't keep up with everything, so just spit it out.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally bumped my mouse.
Oh. Here's another example. And the reason here, you don't want to use difference quotient here because, and usually you're going to see complicated problems. Here's one. F of x is equal to the square root of x minus 1. They want you to compute f prime of t, f prime of 2, and then find an equation at 2, 1. Now, you could use the difference quotient, but we're not using the difference quotient right now because in this part of 3.1, They're not wanting you to use the difference quotient. They're wanting you to use the limit theory. And that's what we're using. So I'm going to write it down for you. Limit as x approaches 2, because of that 2 right there. And they're doing that right there. That's usually going to happen if they're asking for an equation at that point. Of f of x minus f of 2 over x minus 2. Now what I want you to do is I want you to do what that says. Put f of x right here, and I'm going to use my red brackets. F of x right here. That's going to be right there. And then f of 2, that means I'm going to plug that 2 into that to get a number here. And we're going to be subtracting that number from that. So go ahead and work with it for a second. I've got 415. Give y'all a minute to work on it, because this is nothing but algebra. And actually what I'm doing is I'm trying to discourage you to face the inevitable. So I'm going to write down in red. I'm just going to fill everything out. Limit as x approaches 2. I'm going to draw a big set of red brackets. I'm just going to plug in the function. Square root of x minus 1. And then minus, I'm going to draw my orange brackets. And I'm going to plug in 2 into this. 2 minus 1 is what?
1.
And the square root of 1 is, I'll do it for you, 1.
You're impressive.
I know. Divided by x minus 2. Now keep going. Use your algebra. Somebody tell me what you're going to have to do here to manipulate this.
Rationalize the numerator.
Conjugate. I think that's what y'all were saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
it. Multiply by the square root of x minus 1 plus 1 over the square root of x minus 1 plus 1. Is this a test question? Oh, hell to the yeah. Why would I put this on the test? To make sure you knew how to use the conjugate. All right, now you've got shortcut number 3 on top, which is going to give you what? Like 1? Should give you like 1 when you finish, but we'll go ahead and do it. So limit as x approaches 2. Okay, this is going to be a minus b times a plus b is equal to a squared minus b squared. Well, a squared is going to give you x minus 1.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 squared is going to give you a 1. X minus 2. Sure, I ain't got no room. X minus 2 on top. Over x minus 2 times square root of x minus 1 plus 1. Well, the x minus 2s are going to what?
Cancel.
They're going to cancel. See, if you know your algebra, you see things happen before they happen. If you suck at algebra, you're back here going, what's a conjugate? And I'll take my handy dandy red And y'all all know what a conjugate is, so. Miss Sterling, you need to go on tour. And that's going to give you simplified 1 over square root of x minus 1 plus 1. And now what you going to do? You've done simplified it. So all you're going to do now is just plug and what?
Chug.
Plug and chug. So that's 1 square root of 2 minus 1 plus 1, which is equal to what?
1/2.
1/2, and that is your slope. Now, when you use find an equation, anytime you use find an equation, go back to your algebra 2, algebra 1, you use the point slope what?
Formula.
Point slope equation. Unless you suck at algebra and then you just forgot about it. Y minus y sub 1 is equal to m times x minus x sub 1. Oh, I don't suck. I remember that.
So, like for the test, how would it accept the answer in point slope, or would you have to convert it to the y equals mx plus b from the
You got to
point?
solve for y when you finish it.
Okay.
Miss Sterling, you stole that from SpongeBob. They threw rotten fruit at Squidward because he sucked all the time. Squidward and Plankton are my favorite characters.
That's
Y
That seems
minus
appropriate.
what?
That seems appropriate.
Yep. Equals 1/2 times x minus 2. All right, finish that because I've run out of room. I'm going to just put this in a square, in a rectangle, and you're going to finish it. I think the ones are going to cancel. But I'll let y'all finish it.
I think you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Y is equal to 1/2 x.
Yep.
That's your answer. Now that's a good test question because if you can do that test question and you can do it successfully, then you do not what? Suck at algebra. You don't suck at algebra. And the reason I can say suck at algebra and don't suck at algebra, as long as nobody raises their hand and says, I suck at algebra, you're talking about me, then don't volunteer any information. Okay? All right, now I'm going to do a problem next. And notice, both of these problems that we did, both of them was based on the limit. Right here. Limit of the function minus the function plugged in with a 2 over t minus 2. F of x minus f of 2 over x minus 2. So I think if I was you, I would write down 3.1 and I would write down limit as t approaches n, f of x minus f of n over n minus whatever they give you, or I'm sorry, t minus n, or whatever, whatever. It's in the book. You can find it. It's right under, right, 3.1. It should be in there. They should have, it'll say something about being differentiable, and you'll have the limit. And I think they call it A. I think they call this A right here. Right here. And then T minus A. And then they give you the difference quotient. And then we're going to go into the difference quotient in 3.2. But here's a kind of a mix of the difference quotient with the limit. I do not suggest doing it this way because a lot of people get confused here. A faucet, I don't know how to spell faucet, F-O-U-C-T. A faucet is turned on to fill a tub of water. Volume after T minutes is V of T is equal to 3 times T. Find V prime of 12 and interpret. It means write a sentence. I don't know how to spell interpret. That's right or not. So here's what you're going to use. You're going to use kind of a mix between the limit theory and the difference quotient and those two formulas that we just used. Limit as h approaches 0 of v of 12 plus h minus v of 12 over h. And what they're doing is they're fixing to push you into 3.2, which is going to give you f of x plus h minus f of x over h. So they're trying to ease the transition is what they're trying to do. But you don't need that because you already seen the difference quotient and you're ready for it, hopefully. My daughter is a senior at Clemson. Can't put a P in it. If you P in it, then you're a backwoods racist Southerner. So you have to say Clemson. My daughter is a senior at Clemson, and she says that every day. The older I get, the more I relate to Squidward. Well, I'll just go home and throw up. Okay, so let's do it. So that's going to be limit as h approaches 0. I'm going to take my v, I'm going to put a 3 right here in a parenthesis. I'm going to put 12 plus h in there. Minus, what is 3 times 12? Over h. Finish it out, you algebra gurus, you. Finish it out. So that'd be 36 plus 3h minus 36 over h. Limit as h approaches 0. Well, you don't have to worry about the limit because what happens to everything? And your answer is 3 what? Well, 3 units per minute. I think the question gives you all this stuff, but I didn't write all that down. So in this case, gallons per minute, 3 gallons per minute. Now, what does that mean? We're doing the interpret. That means after 12 minutes, okay, there it is, T minutes. It is minutes, and volume is gallons. After 12 minutes, no, the tub doesn't have 3 gallons of water in it. That ain't what it means. It means that at 12 minutes, the tub is filling up at what? 3 gallons per minute. So you need to write that down. At 12 minutes, the tub is filling up at 3 gallons per minute. Squidward's not working. Okay, there he goes. 3 gallons per minute. Question. So 3.2 gives us the difference quotient. So 3.1, we're still dealing with the limits. In 3.2, they're going to teach you to appreciate the derivative by doing everything by the what? By the difference quotient. And that's the limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x over h. This is also called, putting the limit theory with the slope is also called the definition of derivatives. Now you need to write that down because sometimes in your directions on a homework question or a test, it may say use the definition of a derivative to find the slope. If it asks you to use the definition of a derivative and you don't do it by the definition of a derivative, some teachers will mark it wrong because you're not supposed to know any calculus yet. And a lot of students, they don't want to do the definition of a derivative because they suffer from what disorder? Lazy disorder. This is yellow, this is red, and you know I don't like to write in red. Derivative can be written different ways. Now it's very important that you write these down. You can write a derivative as y prime. Actually, that's supposed to be like an accent mark, but it looks like a 1. Let me see if I can do a little bit better. There. Y prime, f of x, f prime of x. It can be written as y prime of x.
D of x, right?
Yep. With dy dx. You'll hear a lot of math teachers go dy dx. And then you have some that go df dx. Not used a lot. And then you have some that write d dx like this. They just like it because they think they're writing like a beautiful mind or something. I don't know why some teachers do some weird stuff, okay? I hope I'm not one of those teachers, but some of them do some weird stuff. When you see the word evaluate, that means plug and chug. You'll usually see a big bar with a number here, and that means evaluate. And you better get used to that because you're going to see that a lot in antiderivatives.
From what I've seen in physics of an antiderivative, it has that big squiggly X. Is that what that bar takes the place of, or?
You talking about an antiderivative?
Yeah.
You have the squiggly S, you have the integral symbol, and then you have
Is that different than that?
dx.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to try to get there as soon as I can. I hope I can get there fast enough for you.
Probably. I mean,
If you're taking 140 and physics together, they shouldn't be already in the antiderivative, but that's just my opinion. Okay. So here's an example.
Just as a reminder, 10 minutes.
We're going to start with are we already over 10? Are we over? What time is it?
4:34.
Okay, well, I'm going to use this problem. F of x is equal to 3t plus 2, or 3x, I'm sorry, 3x plus 2. Find the derivative using the definition of a derivative. So I'm going to take I'm going to use limit as h approaches 0 of f of x plus h minus f of x over h. And I'm going to put this in orange, and I'm going to put this in green. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to write a big set of parentheses here. And I'm going to do a minus symbol. Why does that minus symbol, why am I isolating that minus symbol? Because that minus symbol can cause you a whole lot of headaches. You need to make sure you utilize anything you can utilize to make sure you know that minus symbol can cause you pain. So I'm going to rewrite this with a big set of parentheses, 3 parentheses plus 2, and I'm just going to put f of x down here, 3x plus 2. So what am I going to plug in right there? I'm going to plug in x plus h. And now I'm just going to use algebra. And this is where you people that suck at algebra, this is when you're really going to get bogged down, especially the more advanced problems. This is where you'll bog down. So 3x plus 3h plus 2 minus 3x minus 2 over h. And what should happen is you should have some terms canceling. The negative 2's will cancel, and the 3x's will cancel. You should end up with mostly h terms. You might have a couple of terms in there that's not h. 3h over h. The h's cancel, and you're left with the slope is 3. So the slope of this line is 3, and it is because 3 is m. Now they may ask you, what is the equation of the line at 6, 8? Find an equation at 6, 8. Then you would say y minus 8 is equal to 3 times x minus 6, and what? Solve for y minus 8 is equal to 3x minus what? 18. Y is equal to 3x. Negative 18 plus 8 is negative 10. Okay, there's a good example right there of the difference quotient. Okay. Now that's my favorite song, Sweet Home Alabama. What are y'all talking about Sweet Home Alabama for? Banjo music.
Read the previous comment.
I hope I'm not weird. The professor who tells his students they suck and should quit loves pink but hates red and has banjo music as a ringtone. Leave me alone, okay? All right, I'm going to hit stop recording. And y'all